Welcome back to the Women in Movement podcast. I'm here with Stella, who is a performer and an instructor in New York City, Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan. And Stella, would you like to tell us a little bit more about yourself and your background?
Hello, my name is Stella. Pole dancing. And I perform heated, but right now I mostly dance as a stripper at pumps. Yeah. So I've been pole dancing a lot longer than I have been stripping. I started pole dancing in 2007.
Wow. 2007.
I bought a pole at home and then started teaching in 2011. But the reason I started and bought a pole was because of strippers. I had seen a stripper in Montreal, Canada during a spring break trip when I was 18 years old. And I was obsessed ever since with that visual. Yeah.
Yeah. So what struck you in that visual of that moment? Where you were like, this is so...
Yeah, the strength was incredible to me, that it was in this application of like someone that's doing a striptease, getting naked, and then looking like they're doing pull-ups and inverts on the ceiling. And I'm like, wait, what? This is a thing. I really was like, I was a kid that wanted to do gymnastics, didn't really get those opportunities. Just liked playing around and figuring out stuff with my body and trying to play on jungle gyms or whatever, but didn't think it was possible. Seeing that, I was like, that's what I want to try. Yeah, the image was so impactful to me. Just the confidence, too. Just a very playful and confident person, not, just having a fun time. So that was huge.
Nice.
For my 18-year-old brain.
Yes. That would be very powerful imagery at 18 years old.
Yeah.
So you started, you said in 2007, so that would mean that you have been polling for like 18 years now.
I guess. Wow.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
That's a lot. And then teaching since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like almost 14 years of teaching, which is a ton of experience. I'm sure you've seen like the waves of not just pole, but just the fitness crazes in general and movement crazes. Like,
yeah,
there's always like a wave of what is the most important workout or the most exciting workout of the time. And so, I'm guessing you even like changed and evolved your dancing throughout that as well.
Yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about your journey?
Yeah. Well, I bought the pole, put it up in my bedroom, tried to learn from YouTube with lots of failure. I would try to invert by running at my pole. Did not know what I was doing.
Just like a child at the playground.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I had bought heels too, and I have these like first videos of me putting on heels, doing like a couple spins, and you could just see like young me and the joy in my face. Just like it was just like so fun to play with being very sexy and feminine, and I did not feel like that normally, so it felt like this really different part of me. This like then it was like a secret, it was for me. It was my thing I did at home. I had lived with my boyfriend at the time. So it was just like this really cool thing, and I bought DVDs like from Fonya Monday.
Wow.
It was like an old DVD. I bought like Jamila DeVille DVDs.
Wow.
It was like a whole 5-pack. Trying to learn pole, and then I tried some classes in Long Island. I was living in Long Island at the time, and it was a little frustrating because I was like, I want to invert, da 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 da, and they're like, no. You need to take this many classes. You need to buy this many packages before you invert, kind of thing.
Wow.
Which I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
If someone wants to go try to take like a level 2 now, they suggest take this, da 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 da. I had a pole at home. I was learning spins. So I was like, I want to learn.
I think it's also I think people forget, like, again, we were at a playground at one point. And we did just hang upside down at some point.
Yeah.
If you trust your body enough at this point
right.
to do it, then you should, be okay.
Right. And now, like, looking back, I teach inverts now regularly, and I feel confident I can take somebody off the street and learn the progressions of the invert if they wanted to, like, in a safe way.
Right.
Grounded and with assistance and a spot. Like, there's ways to teach someone off the street.
Yeah, I think, I went to your invert class. I went to your invert class on Monday. This past Monday, and it was just wonderful because yes, the basics allow for just like a little assistance from a leg or a little assistance in whatever is in your body to get you upside down in a safe way. And it's all about like slowing down the process and feeling out the process to do what your body needs to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that, like, if you haven't taken inverts with Stella, I'd highly suggest it. You're doing a series through the holidays.
Yeah, to the end of December.
And hopefully you'll bring it back.
Oh yeah, I think I'll always have some sort of series available once a quarter. I feel like people need that repetition anyway. I really did not relearn how to properly invert. I learned from Marlo and her Invert Ready program.
Which is also, I think, like, inverting is something where it's you, if you are uncomfortable with it, you do want to be around other people because we want either a spot or you want, just the community. My first inversion classes were with Yerline, who was also your student. So it's just funny how things come kind of full circle. Yerline was like, Stella's great. She's amazing. You should definitely take class with her. So, I think there's something powerful within that class and the type of community it kind of fests like too.
Yeah.
So what would you say as far as like you discuss refining your invert and like adjusting the way that you do it or the way you also teach it? Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you want to share on that?
Can you specify, is it like for me, my personal practice or for teaching it or both? Or
you could talk about your personal practice if you'd like.
Yeah. I was always struggling, I think, even though I was strong, I didn't understand what my body needed to do, how to organize my spine. Forever till I took a chance. I took Marlo's Invert Ready program twice. Mm-hmm. I took like the beta program, and then she allowed us to take the full program.
Nice.
And it was over Zoom, and that took some getting used to how to learn online. But what the whole program to me really emphasized was like learning how to restack your spine to like create internal tension in your abdomen in order to sustain flipping your body upside down and being able to access your own strength, because a lot of times people don't necessarily not strong enough because they don't know how to create tension and hold it. Like a lot of people aren't asked to lift their body weight and hold it. So that's exactly what you need to, like, it's isometrics. It's like being able to harness that hold, and it's a practice. It's like a focus. A lot of people I've seen, and myself included, like rush out, get kind of uncomfortable with their own bodies when it's uncomfortable tension or too hard or like all these things that we think are not safe, but they're fine. It's just the sensations of how you're holding your body. Yeah. And you're going to be okay. You're just getting used to it. And your nervous system's getting used to it. And now I like have all this access to like incredible strength, and I barely lift weights, and I use a lot of isometrics, and how I organize my spine had a lot to do with that. So to me, it was like learning about positioning of my spine, breath, slowing down, and awareness. It was like I'm learning how to have a healthy spine in this class. That's what inverts are to me. Yeah,
it's interesting. There's so much in what you just stated that you could unpack, because there is like within pole there is the undulations of the spine in which you like are doing a body roll and the spine is gooey or it's swaying side to side. There's importance in that as well. But I think that there is incredible importance in the tension and creating that awareness, because a lot of people may have lost sight or never really connected with certain parts of their body, and especially like the lower abs, the pelvis, like certain areas that are really needed to invert. Isometrics are, like, in my opinion, like great for getting over injuries, just creating that awareness on how to utilize muscles even to walk throughout your day. A lot of them are used for Achilles rehab, just like simple rehab programs.
Very safe. Very safe to get to any level.
Yes.
Very effective.
Yes. And I think that the other part you brought up was the feeling safe part, which I've heard Marlo describe, like sometimes, like, do people just like black out and go up and just flip their legs up and go upside down instead of feeling safe enough to be, tilting their head back slowly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is Marlo Fiskin, by the way, for any of the listeners who might not be familiar with her. She is a pole dancing instructor that one day hopefully will be on the podcast as well. I think we both connect on the fact that we also do very much enjoy Marlo's workshops and teaching styles. I think personally, when she says certain words that just hit.
Such great cues.
Yeah. The cues that stick with you for a lifetime, right? They really are. And that's, I think, as an instructor, something that I always admire and want to pass on too. So it's what I also found interesting too was with the invert that you teach, and that is also in the Invert Ready program, but I found actually a lot of correlation with the hammock. And just letting your body just stay stiff, but let your legs raise up and
seesaw back.
Yeah, I was there's so much in that, and I was that again. It's just the repatterning, the repetition of that slow but engaged inversion pattern.
I used to teach a hammock conditioning class.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Nice.
Rochelle used to take it.
Well, who's teaching hammock conditioning now?
Yes.
Yes. Rochelle was on the podcast.
She uses some stuff that it used to be called core aerial at Body and Pole. And it was a program, I think I got her name, Jillian maybe.
Okay.
Can't remember. And it was more Pilates and dance based when I learned it, a lot of reaching, a lot of length and stuff like that. And when I got the opportunity to start teaching it, I started teaching it to keep in mind to train for an invert. And that's the point of the class, is to condition, but to invert either on any apparatus, really. So I was already kind of starting, I guess, refining what that meant, what kind of strength you need, a plank, a row, a pull-up, the ability to hold tension, and just maybe holding the top of a pull-up as practice. And what's that alignment look like? So yes, the hammock is such a great, I don't know, it is such a nice supportive way of learning inverts, because you can move the hammock in different parts of your body, which is so cool. You can have it up or higher or lower on your back. Very much what it would feel like to do an invert. Right, when you're doing it in alignment.
And that in a way that feels safe again.
Yeah.
So another thing I want to get into is the loops that you decide to teach in class. So I know that you going to your classes regularly, we do either 2 or 3 words that are focused on in our final freestyle. So we get some technique, and then it's the how do you flow in and out of that, which I find to be so valuable, because that's what's going to stick in the long term and what's going to feel good to different people in their own body. So can you speak to what is your process in choosing some of the loops?
Yeah. Again, it's another Marlo idea that I learned in floor flow training, and I've started applying it to my pole practices when I go into a room. trying to create such a simple plan that you can fit on a Post-it.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I've learned ways of planning for class that can be pages.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And just kind of be, like, very not clear or not sticking to, like, a theme, you know what I mean? And when I learned loops from the floor flow training with Marlo, it really, like, was so simple and got down to the root of something.
Mm-hmm.
It got down to these, like, basic movements and textures or, you know, some ideas that you can play with, and then it opens up the can of things that creates the 2 pages.
Yeah.
So, but very organically rather than this memorization.
Yeah.
You know, it's working like from the root out. And to me, when I'm starting to, like, inspiration will come from very different things. Like, I'll hear a song and it makes me want to skip. So, like, I'm like, really want to, like, just start skipping all weird to the song. And I'm just playing around with the song and what it makes me do. And then from that, like, initiation from the song, I'll, like, start creating footwork or, like, patterns and like, just keep repeating until it turns into something like I can maybe put down, and I would name it footwork for the class that day. How can we move our feet? How can we shuffle fast? How can we, you know, depends on the song, you know, but then giving that as a practice to play with, not necessarily do it like me. These are some examples of what can you make out of it, kind of thing. So, like, I'll just grab it from maybe a song, or just, like, when I go in now, I try to have a very playful, exploratory experience, and then listen to myself, be like, is that what I want to do? Is that boring? Ooh, that's exciting. I want to go that direction. I want to leg hook today, or I want to side climb today, because I kind of want to. I'll, like, listen to the cravings I have. So you're taking Stella's craving class, and you're finding a loop that I've given you. It's just more of a tasting menu of what I've played with that week or that, you know, that day. So that's kind of it's very, you know, it's very loose and open-ended as I start building the ideas for class.
Yeah. I also, the footwork that you brought into class last week was very nice, because it was a nice balance between inverting, which is a lot of arm and back and, like, upper body work. So it's, like, cool to, like, you know, in between your reps, like, you could work on footwork and then you can start to put them together, which you asked us to do in the end freestyle, which was just beautiful to see a lot of people just kind of pop into the inverts from their footwork. Yeah, that was natural.
I didn't know when it was coming. We had our partners say invert anytime. So they had to be kind of light on their feet.
Yeah, so, like, the partners, for the listeners, the partners were asked to direct the person on the pole when it was their turn to do inverts and when it was their turn to do footwork. So it was kind of just, like, a very fun exploratory class where you also got your own natural rhythms into your flowing into the invert, which was... It was nice. And it was nice. It's always nice to see when people are moving their body in their natural way. Performances are cool, but you can always tell that they're choreographed, you know, but it's just, to me, I love seeing freestyle and, like, love just seeing, like, what is coming out and what is emerging, especially when there's a prompt or a focus that is clear. Cool. So, yeah, I think that the cool part about loops, going back to that, is the fact that it helps to find the connections between 2 pieces or 3 pieces. And I think when it comes to a lot of things in life, we love to put things in boxes and keep them in boxes. And we don't always notice where things connect. There's this book called Tinker, Dabble, Doodle, Try. And so what it reminds me of is, like, there was a story of, like, Gillette, the company. They had designed a toothbrush, a battery, and they also designed appliances. But they had never thought to design a mechanical toothbrush. Whereas, like, I don't remember what other company it was, but they came up with the mechanical toothbrush. So it's just, like, that's just, like, one of my favorite examples of, like, you gotta find the connections between things. Otherwise, just the putting them in boxes, it doesn't work.
Yes, exactly. And for the example of footwork, to invert. I am so into having really springy, responsive legs and feet now, and the way it has helped my inverts is incredible, because like, especially if it's like a momentum based or like a handspring, there's so much happening to like really propel your body with the legs and feet. Spins are also very feet connected, but the way, I don't know, the way you're connecting your legs to your torso and everything in between and your hips, I just find like having very responsive dexterity and sensing of the feet, even in the air, just makes everything come together.
Yeah.
You know, because you're sensing more of your whole body and working together with it.
Yeah.
Even in your inverts.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in the feet. The elasticity in the feet is important. The grounding mechanism in the feet is super important. But then to like also, like you said, pay attention to what your feet are doing in the air. And sometimes like I'll get into an inside leg hang and I'll notice that my foot wants to flex because it's hitting a certain nerve in my shin area, or you know, like even though you're doing something with the other parts of your body, you should be aware of like what's happening to the feet or what's happening into the hands. And the feet and the hands have so much in common. You know, when you relax the hands, often you can relax the feet, vice versa. But yeah, I think that the springiness is also just a fun piece that is missed.
Yeah.
Because we're so focused on what our hands are doing that we're like not always focused on what help we can get from the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think where the push-offs are, the inside of the foot, the outside of the foot, it can become extremely important to power and directionality and yeah. Applying force.
Yeah. And like this, I think a lot of the styles with pole is mostly this like very slow practice. Even ground, like with heels and things, like I don't think there's a lot of play with speed or bounce.
Yeah.
Unless you're like, twerking is a great bounce.
Right.
Do more. Twerking. But like, that's where that playful energy starts coming in, when you're like able to start to play the tempo, up tempos, and you know, I think that brings a level of play and fun and energy that's very different than, you know, the slow and low and heavier and sensuous, snaky stuff. But having that range, I think it just makes things, you get to change it up. You know, it keeps it interesting.
Yeah. I think it's also like something that needs focus too if you are doing a lot of slow and controlled movement, because that slow and control is great. But the
such a slow hoe. All the time.
It's also like if you get really good at doing that, then you can lose, you know, some of your quickness and elasticity.
Sure, yes.
And I have noticed that in my own movement. And I'm like, oh no, I have to keep doing some fast kickouts, some quick elastic, like, you know, arm punches and just different things, with even playing with little weights on my arms or my feet and just doing like quick kicks or stuff to keep my balance,
clever.
to keep because you know, you still do want that elasticity for longevity in life. Like the shoulders are supposed to be very elastic, and the hips. So, and it also, to your point again, it feels good. Like it's one of the ways to help your body just like feel good and kind of quick shortcut to happiness in a way too. Yeah,
I agree. It can change your mood, just adding some bounce to your movement. Like, it's fun. It's really like releases tension. It's a mood shifter for sure. It's fun to watch other people do it. It's like, it's a happy, joyful energy behind the bouncing. And I experienced, I don't know, it was because of COVID. I had COVID and my legs felt heavier and just my things just got heavier after I had COVID. And I remember walking upstairs was I just felt like a lot of fatigue had settled in my body. And I noticed my legs are just heavier, and I started getting more veins, little veins in my legs. And I may have a history in my family of vein and what's the word? Circulatory system issues.
Right.
Vascular issues. So when I was reading about or listening to maybe some podcasts or also some literature doing research on the health of veins in the legs. They're like pumps.
Yeah.
They help pump all that blood back up to the heart.
Yeah.
And that to me made more sense to like, oh wow.
Yeah.
Get those stronger, get it more elastic, get it bouncing, start using more like jump rope movements or hopping and little like hopscotch, little skips, because all the fascia, everything is gonna start to be trained through those movements. And if you're only working in one way, very slow, very controlled, static holds, that's great, but it's not gonna give you that same kind of
Pump.
pump.
Yeah.
The health of a pump.
Katie Bowman says that like that is her one stretch that she would recommend is the calf stretch, like before and after walking. So because again to pump, she's like the second like heart is in your calves and you got to pump the blood back up to your heart.
Yes.
So yeah, there's so much in there of like the bouncing, yeah, so
I'm a bounce advocate.
I'm a bounce. I also like it's very and we've discussed
Bounce
this
your
too.
booty.
We've discussed this also in the somatic stuff. So like personally, my practice would be rubbing, followed by some pounding, and then followed by shaking. So the shaking doesn't have to start jumping, but it can be just in place, and then it usually leads to jumping for me. But usually the shaking just starts off with letting the chest shake and relax and release. Swinging, which would bring that elasticity in as well, and then something where I'm getting down to the floor and up. So that's like those are like my 5 things. I learned that order from someone else, and I've actually really taken to it. I enjoy it.
Sounds great.
Yeah. And it's good to have a routine and a ritual. But I like to do it before I teach classes or before, like if I'm going to do something that's stressful, help to get back in the body. Yeah, it's great for
yourself.
Smack yourself with movement. Oh, I do that. Yeah.
This is so good.
It's also just interesting to listen to the sounds that are created from different muscles. You're like, oh, this punch and this punch and that hit. Listening to the sounds, it's like, okay, these are what my muscles sound like when they are hit. But so there's also you've also discussed some other the fact that you have done performances, competitions, and also you're currently a stripper. So, let's start off with the competitions piece. What did you enjoy or find difficult in competitions?
I started out really not enjoying any of the process or the stage in the beginning. It was all so stressful. I think I wanted to push myself and create a piece. I had fun like with the ideas and like creating the ideas, but training was really hard. I did try to get some help, like getting like choreo help or something, and I think I was expecting perfection and just putting a lot on myself, The most fun I had though when I was creating for competition pieces was like when it was in collaboration with like a pole partner, pole mates, like just having someone there that we were training together, creating our own pieces, but having them in the room. Those are some of my favorites, because just the collaborative act of that, and it just made it a more enjoyable connection. You're going to train at this time, your friend will be there, we're going to work on these things. Yeah. And go and just hang out after.
It's like kind of like having a team, even though it's an individual
sport. But it felt more like a team. But I've bombed on stage for comps, so like totally blanked, totally forgot parts of my piece and just tried to keep going. So just had like, all that work just was like a very hard stage time and come off crying, or it was also probably an okay performance, and I was so hard on myself when I first started. But I think I just needed to go through those really hard reps because over time I started to enjoy it a little more. And I think for one of my last competitions, I really didn't care at that point about winning or like pleasing even the judges. I like really stuck to like this story and this piece of like this music. It's like, I'm just going to do it this way. And kind of release doing the hardest thing from, you know, and just kind of started to enjoy the process more by that last time. And I was just so proud of that piece. I didn't care. I think I was in a very high, like, division. So mine was technically not hard at all. You know, compared to people doing phoenixes and Russian splits. I was not doing those things at that competition, but I really was like into the musicality of my story and trying to develop those parts. I think I probably, you know, I probably could have done better if I did like a dramatic division, like they call it dramatic. But I think I did championship or something for PSO, Full Sport Organization. That was like one of my last ones.
When was that?
It was a while ago. Wow, maybe, I want to say like 2018, 2017, a while ago.
What would you like, oh sorry, go ahead.
Yeah.
What would you say to like younger you that was performing?
I don't know. I was very, very... You couldn't tell me nothing. I would not hear anything.
That's great. That's great.
I would need to just learn the hard way.
That's it. Sometimes you just need to go through it, and that's it.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, maybe I would have listened to like some people, but even people I looked up to, I think I was not ready to hear those things and just needed to go through like doing it badly or quote unquote failing at it in my way and just like going through that and finding my way to then enjoying the process. Because I don't know if I would have heard at all, oh, you're being too hard on yourself. Because even like 2 years ago, I already knew I was hard on myself, but to change that took another 2 years to get to even touch that way of thinking. So this is like, I really wouldn't know what to tell you. I wish you could hear, don't be as hard on yourself.
I think that statement gets said very often. And I think that I was told that statement very often. Yeah. And did not hear it as well. So it would be fun to find a different phrase that would, and I think what would be helpful too is always finding like more of a positive flip on things. So I'm gonna have to play around with that phrase and see what we can come up with.
I think if somebody told me maybe you can have you can have maybe the ability to change your way of thinking and it's gonna take you 10 years to do it, I probably would have been like, oh. You know, like being able to recondition your mind to be less hard on yourself, that's a whole sector of work. I didn't even have any idea that was a thing. I was competing or even training. Mindset is a huge, like now my mindset is so different when I go into the room. Right. So different than it used to be.
And it changes everything in any sport that you do. It's like the positive, there's so much obviously out there with like the power of positive thinking. That was a science project I did when I was like in 5th grade. I took a bunch of kids out to like,
you're so advanced mentally.
but I also was not
a science fair project.
But I also did not follow my own.
That's amazing.
I did not follow my own advice all the time. No, I was very hard on myself. I was like oldest child, you know. But I think there's something there. But
they don't know what they're doing.
This need to be perfect for everybody else. But I took a bunch of kids out to the playground and they were shooting baskets and like it's free throws, and I was like, I did like studies on the way I was like talking to them. And obviously nothing like
That's
cursing or
incredible.
anything like that. But yeah, it was funny that I was into that at such a young age. But yeah, it's very hard to tell yourself to stop being hard on yourself.
Yes.
And I do appreciate, I think that like you've brought light to this numerous times, but like when you're saying like at the end that it's the freestyle time, you're like, I'm not asking you to dance, I'm asking you to play. And I think that like by just saying play, it allows for, again, the mistakes, it allows for people to not get hard on themselves, but again, that's a positive way to take them into exploratory movements and failing and
right.
Yeah, the invitation to play is, it's a wonderful invitation.
I think it changes so much in the way, well, for me, and I think I've seen my students too, like when you're playing and you're just like messing around, you can repeat it. Like repeat the thing until it like looks like plays a way that you like, or repeat it and see what happens. With the song like 10 times, but when we're so-called dancing, how dare we repeat the leg hook 3 times, audience? How dare you? It's like kind of the tone shifts.
Yeah.
So it's like, we can let that part go here.
Yeah.
We're not in this, we're not striving or performing.
No. You're learning and you're processing,
yeah.
And I think play is just, it's not done enough, and it's not done early enough when you're learning something new. So a lot of times when people are learning something new, they're just like, how exactly do I squat? And I'm like,
perfectly.
I'm like, you sit down in a chair, you sit down on the subway, you sit down when you go to the bathroom, like you squat. Yeah. So there, you can play with the squat even a little bit before fully squatting and feeling what feels nice and what doesn't feel nice with just that simple pattern.
Right.
Whether it's shaking or wiggling or knees together, knees apart. And oftentimes too, this goes into like when you're playing in a gym, like a commercial gym, it's like, it's such an invitation for someone to come up to you and be like, you're doing this wrong. Or like, it's so terrible. I'm so turned off by commercial gyms just for those reasons. I actually have a video of it recently happening to me. I was playing with a back lever, and like I took a band to try to make it harder. To try to make it a little easier by like giving some assistance. And then like when I was done doing my reps, someone came over to me and like had me take out my headphones for them to ask me like, oh, do you ever do dips with weights? And I'm like, that is not even close to the exercise that I'm trying to do right now. And also like, that's not even as hard as what I'm trying to do right now. Like, but it's interesting. Yeah. When you're just out playing, like, and people are like, oh, but have you tried this amount of reps with this amount of weight that has this number? There's something about, again, putting things in boxes that people are like, you have to do it that way. And I'm like, just like, why didn't you just let the person be that was just exploring?
Right.
Like, it's a lot.
Gross.
So gross.
That happened to me recently too. I was like jumping up to a pull-up bar, and a person gave me something to step on.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
What?
Yeah.
That's terrible because you're actually working on your jump.
I wanted to jump, and then catch it. It was like that was fun. I was like, oh, I'm having a fun time just jump and catch.
Also, there's so much valuable in jumping and catching, your elasticity in your fingers. Like, we could go on for days.
Yeah, you can go on, like, the focus and trying to aim to catch the thing.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I think you're right in some degree that people become these like Justice League or this righteous polices of proper form and squat form.
Yeah.
And you must do it this way, otherwise you're gonna hurt yourself. I don't know, like people mind your own business. At anyone moving weird to you, just mind your own business.
If you don't want to watch, you don't have to watch. Just look away. I think I think people need to just like respect the fact that people sometimes are just creating awareness in their own body. And I think that there needs to be this like more of an appreciation and respect for the fact that like someone else knows their own body. Like,
That's
could you
awesome.
imagine like walking up to someone and saying, well, financially, I think you should make these changes with your life. You're like, no one does that to you. But they're like, I think you should be doing this, this, and this with your body and how you move. And you're like, I've lived in this body. I've moved this vessel all around. I've created my own awareness in so many ways. And now I get to make choices because I've created such a high awareness level.
Yeah.
You know? Those are some of my gripes with it.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I want to add to the self-speak. When we're talking about like speaking in a way to yourself that is gentle, that encourages exploration and the ability, the permission to repeat or make mistakes. All mistakes are to be weird and ugly. But I think we mentioned Yerline was a student of mine, but when Yerline posted a video of her talking to herself, she was watching a video of her dancing, and the way she talked to herself was so sweet. And I was like, oh my God, I do not talk to myself when I'm watching my own videos this way.
That is so sweet.
And I was like, that actually blew my mind. Hearing someone else's example of kind to speak or gentle speak to themselves.
Yeah, that's really fascinating. So props to Arlene for doing that.
Yeah, and sharing that on it was like on an IG story.
Nice.
Just like,
too bad it's not a post. I would love to go watch it.
Right.
And see.
Yeah.
But I think it's like oftentimes we rewatch the videos now that everyone has a phone.
Yes.
And you can be very critical
right
away.
So critical. I'm very critical still. And it takes a lot of space for me to, time will pass to watch a video.
Yes.
But I won't appreciate it in the real time, in the real moment. But it's like a delay.
Yeah.
And I think I commented on someone that wrote a post about this. It was like, you have your own movement blindness to you. You're not seeing how great you are.
Yeah.
And it's until years later or something, if I watch my competition pieces now, I'm like, oh my God, I'm so cool.
You're like, that was the girl back in Montreal. That was, just such a cool experience that you were looking up to. Now, I think that the self-speak is important, and the rewatching the videos. If I freestyle in a class or something, I won't, or even open pole, I don't watch it for a few days because I love to just feel what happened.
Me too.
Especially, honestly, sometimes, there's times where I like to do things with my hat over my head, and I think the movement looks so cool. I'm just like, this is the most wonderful experience. And then I go and watch the video. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess I wasn't making you're not catching the angles that you want to catch because you have no idea where the camera is. But then you're like, oh, this move, I remember feeling this move, but it did not look as cool as it felt. So, I'm happy that I watch it later on. But it's just interesting to just draw those comparisons, because our senses are so much bigger than just our sight, and just the feels of things, the hearing, the vibrations of things.
Yes.
They're doing more research on other senses than just the 5 that they first stated that we had. But electromagnetic fields and stuff, it's all real senses. Someone compared senses to windows of a house, and opening up different windows to let in just different experiences. And I think that that's beautiful because it is our relation to the outside world.
Yeah.
And that's why I shut off the sense of sight, because I think that it opens up.
Great.
Yeah.
I love moving without seeing myself and just feeling where I am. It's great just to go in like that. And I did it in one of Nicoletta's freestyle classes. We did a blindfold prompt.
Nice.
That was awesome.
Nice. Yeah. I think
very freeing.
yeah. And so that's also, we can segue into that, but you're a very intuitive mover. You're very like, you can move very sensually, you can move very like, just very gooey, you know. So I have some questions about, you know, how do you feel like you get into that mode?
Now I learned from like Marlowe's floor flow training a lot about like kind of prepping your nervous system for flow states. And my movement from the start to finish of that program really transformed, because even she said in one of her feedback videos, like, you look like you're at home in your body.
That's wonderful. That's such a wonderful thing to carry around with you.
Yeah. And it took me a long time to even watch these. I didn't even finish watching all the feedback that Marlo gave me. But I watched a bit, and then I like try to take that in. So I'm like trying to take it in pieces to really receive it. But because I have trouble receiving good things, even your own self movement is something I need to practice receiving. So I kind of use the practices I learned with getting into flow states, and a lot of it is like the soothing period first, or even the jumping and getting energy up, and traveling across the floor, not fixating on a critical eye in the mirror. It's really about sensing through different like somatic things, rocking, circling, like gentle movements, kind of that drop you in to yourself. Because you don't walk around from the street and go right into your practice and expect yourself to be a sexual gooey goddess. Just, like, she needs to be prepared. Like, you need to like kind of soften to it a bit.
Yeah, especially in the streets of New York, I feel like you do have this extra tension.
Guards.
Yeah, this extra tension that you need. It's a little necessary.
Yeah.
If you're walking down the street undulating all the time, and, I mean, it's great sometimes, but you still gotta keep an eye out. Yeah. I mean, like, it is like, you know, obviously you can do it in certain spaces, but you still gotta keep a side eye, you know, a little bit of
for sure
safetiness.
I grew up, you know, and this city is like, come on, let's go. We're going. Next thing. Here we go.
Yeah. So one of the followers did have a question for you. She said, when dancing or performing, how do you ground yourself, and what makes you feel safe? So I feel like you touched on some of those. Is there anything specific to you that makes you feel like safe?
Yeah, I think, and this wasn't an overnight process, I think being able to trust myself was what created then the safety to dance the way I like to dance, or the way I choose to dance in front of people. Be willing that I'm not going to always please everybody, but I also, if I have like something hard physically, like trusting myself that I'll get through it. Like if I stumble, I'll get through it. I know how to sense what to do now. Like just trusting myself in those moments and being present, like practicing being present when I am moving and taking that to a stage or something like that. And also if it is like with an audience member or like people in front of me, I'm also gonna very much stay open to spontaneity and interacting with them, and just like feeling what's gonna happen in that moment, because it's like for me with teaching, like I don't always know until I get into that space and ask them some questions how they're doing.
Right.
I have to be willing to kind of, yes, the noises. I have to be willing to be kind of spontaneous and change it up, and
yeah,
I think skills like that, trusting myself, just being open to not going according to plan.
Yeah, I think that's super important, because when you are critical, you cannot also be like, it's giving like pleasure and stuff. Like when you can't experience pleasure when you are critical on yourself, and that's just something that, you know, it's the trust is
the trust
is needed and necessary.
Yeah, and that helps you become like more mentally flexible with if you mess something up or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
If you didn't land the right way or
Right.
you turned away from, I don't know, the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Just being like, okay, and then keep going. Like, just, it's okay, and the feeling come up, and then it's okay to dance with that feeling of disappointment or something, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
Like, I think being very accepting of all of it.
So
I hope I answered.
No, that's great. No, it is. You did.
Yeah.
I also want to get into as far as your work now. You're working at Pumps, you said, right? And so. And doing some performances for the studios you work at too.
Yeah, did a couple this year.
Yeah,
couple performances,
like partner performances as well. So the idea of desire, I feel like, is very strong in the human body, and it's also a strong connecting point for people in a class, in a group. Like mimetic desire is the idea that like if you're in a group of people, and you all. Or a couple people want a certain thing, you also start to semi-want that thing or be inquisitive as to why you would want this thing. So the idea is that if we can control what we desire and how much we mimic our desire of other people, then we can kind of have better control of our life. Which is why the phones and stuff is so hard. Yeah. So So I was reading this. I think it's called Wanting. The book is all about desire. It's mimetic desire, and I think it's like very interesting too, with the strip clubs or even in a performance. Like you are creating something that, or you are like putting out there something for someone to desire in a way, and like really captivating someone's full attention. And I think it's a very powerful ability to have. So do you want to speak a little bit about that or anything?
Yeah, I think that the art is like this that I play with a lot. Like I play with it a lot at the club. It really got honed in there. Is like this artistry of seduction and tease. In more primal ways. You know, I'm not like doing a burlesque tease. I'm not necessarily playing so much with the teasing of clothing. I'm gonna take it off soon kind of thing. I think I play a lot with this like pleasure in my body, this like arousal in my body, and then that like I'm projecting that out. That's what I kind of think of my artistry is like how like I'm taking the shapes of seduction, sex, humanness, primal moments, and then I'm like creating, I don't know, these like moving sculptures out of it in a way. I guess I've never been asked to speak about my artistry of desire.
Yeah, sorry for putting you on the spot.
No, it's a really good question. Yeah, I think I like become like a provocateur artist or something because I used to play with how can I like absolutely look insanely hot in the mirror or to someone and provoke it. And provoke them to become aroused and excited. Yeah, that felt good to me. That felt good as a direction to go in. Like in this way of expressing my inner lust, sex, sexuality, maybe. Or just maybe whatever I was conditioned to see as seductive. I can't tell you that.
Yeah.
But
so when you're dancing for someone else and when you're dancing for yourself, is there a difference to you?
I think it depends on the intention. So I've been more active on OnlyFans lately.
Okay.
And that's been a little bit of a trip because the intention is to film these very hot erotic shapes of my body and these angles. So it is very like specific in the view of what somebody is seeing. But I also go through a process of going into a flow state even before I film that stuff.
Okay, cool.
So it does become a state of creation and more of a feeling based thing, even though I am playing with the visuals and the what you're seeing, the performative side of it. I don't know if I'm saying that.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So even when I'm on stage showing my ass, I still try to stay in my body and with myself, because you could easily do the same thing without being there. So it's very tricky, I think, I guess they say it's an embodied state or something.
Yeah.
That doesn't always mean I'm feeling pleasure either. I think just like with sex or any moment in life, you can have any kind of emotion coming up. Are you present with it or not? I think I'm always trying to stay present in my movement with whatever is coming up. And that to me as a practice when I am moving, whether I have eyes on me or not, is something I try to keep as my center. Having an audience changes that because it's another input. Having eyes is just a very different thing, and how do you want to interact with those eyes? I don't know, it's very different. I feel like it's different every time too when you go on stage, even if you have a practice routine or not.
Yeah, I think it's
making sense.
No, you are, and I think it's. I love that it is, but I do love that you also stated that different emotions come up with sexuality and that idea. We've talked about this before with your other class that was sensual sequences. People don't understand that sensual isn't always sexual, and doing what feels good to you in your body is sensual. That's something that you want to hold on to for longer. Sexual, there are some negative things that can be associated with sexual as a word, like sexual harassment.
Yeah, there's those kind of stigmas, I think.
Yes, stigmas, and also just like words like sexual harassment or other things that can be negative. But I think that it's also really cool to hear that you have your own sensual flow state kind of situation that you do to get into your own body, because you're doing something that is very vulnerable.
It is. Yes, it is. And I wanted to add that too earlier. Sorry to interrupt. Did you want to add
go ahead.
more?
Oh, talk.
You reminded me. I feel like I lost that thought. That when you are going into a performance space in front of eyes with the willingness to be spontaneous and in your body and not necessarily sticking to choreo, it's very scary. It's scarier than having a plan, because you don't know what's going to happen. And that is an unknown you're willing to stepping into, and it's a
very brave practice, and it's a very humbling practice too.
Humbling.
And many times that you can be like, okay, that didn't go so well, but you did it. You stepped into it. You were brave, and people don't do hard things all the time anymore. We sit in air-conditioned houses and heat, and but
no one's dancing naked in front of people on the regular and then staying in their bodies and feeling the shame and the emotions and the sometimes fun that it could be.
So many things. So something too that I wanted to ask you, going back to classes and stuff, what do you enjoy seeing in your students?
When they're able to just let go, and I could just see the shift. All of them is dancing, all of them is there, and they're just, you could see them just. Kind of they're in it. They're in the loop. They're in the loop. They're in their own bodies. They're in the flow of this, just accepting the next thing. It just they just keep kind of going with it, and just seeing them take the little things that I gave them and just run free, even if they go in totally different directions. I'm go off. Just seeing them go off and having the time to do that, that's the best.
It's almost as if they like choreographed it in the moment, like right away. You're just like watching in real time. This is, yeah.
And you could just see that so natural, like you say, natural for them. Looks beautiful. Like they look like like you can see the joy that's coming up.
Yeah. And the energy in the full room is just contagious.
Yeah, and then it kind of can ebb, the whole room kind of catches that. And it's a very, very magical thing to witness. You're like, it's happening now.
Yeah.
They're doing it. And I just want to keep it going. I want, just let them keep going, because for them, it can feel like an instant when they're in that moment of flow. It's going to go by so fast.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Don't even remember what you did. Yeah.
You're just in it.
Yeah. So another question, what are you currently interested in learning? So I know you like to listen to podcasts, books, or taking training programs. Is there something that's like catching your eye at the moment? And it doesn't have to be movement. It could be anything.
What am I interested in learning more? A lot. I mean, I think I'm always like learning a lot of different modalities. So I just sprained my ankle, like I told you earlier. So I'm really interested in like the tissue health, ligaments and stuff like that. I really want to learn more about caring for joints and the ligaments and the mobility of that. I was listening to a podcast with Kelly Starrett.
Oh yeah, Kelly Starrett. Yeah. Kelly Starrett has been
so good.
Yeah. Kelly Starrett has been like one of the early voices in fitness.
Yes.
For a very long time.
Yeah, I like that he talks about it. It's a really good podcast he just came with, and it's really about like bounce, like finding jumping, finding mobility. He
does a lot of the flossing, and that's where
he's good with injuries.
I think was it called Supple Leopard?
He wrote a book called Supple Leopard.
Yeah, very early on I read that book, and had it,
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's
He's good. He's a good listen. I like hearing him speak.
Yeah.
And he has like a happy, healthy family.
Yeah, what everybody wants, a happy, healthy family,
He's working hard, I think, at it. And that's also like, I want to learn more about challenging my thoughts. I do therapy, talk therapy like once a week, and she's great. She kind of, because I'm like, I have all these like resources, like I'm bringing in like books and papers, and I'm like, I researched this, like, she's so good at bringing in all this outside stuff, and is like so excited and to talk about what I found that week, and I'm just like obsessed with.
You're helping her do her research too.
Yeah, well, she tells me like her clients or her, I don't know what she calls patients, brings in stuff, and she is like fascinated how much is out there. But I brought in this Judge Your Neighbor worksheet by Byron Katie, and it's, you judge your neighbors, like you judge someone you're pissed off at, and you get to like just go off and like write all the mean whatever petty shit you want to say. And it's very like cathartic. You can say whatever you want. It's you're not going to show it to them. It's for you. And then what this process does, it shows you like why you're upset. What did you need from them? What could you ask that, like, what would make this better or whatever. And then what it does is the questions start flipping it towards you. So it's like asking if it's true. You're just kind of just questioning your thoughts. And it goes through a process, and with every turnaround or question that you ask about the answers you gave, it's like it kind of unravels this. It's like kind of lets it go a little easier. You could do it with somebody that is no longer on this planet. You could do it with someone that you're angry with that's died, and it just helps you. It's like a letting go.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have to look that up.
So I've done the worksheet like a couple times, and I've had like really strong emotional things come up for me. Learning about like sitting with my discomfort and sitting with my thoughts, and what I've been really into lately. That kind of work.
Yeah.
And more play and fun in my real life. Like just walking around with a sense of magic, adventure.
Nice.
Also, just walking around with more wonder.
Yeah. I like that. I think that it is good to do, like, you can get in the realm of like self-help books and like all of this. Right. It also is important to have the flip side of wonder. Yeah. I think it's also just easy to feel better about your problems when you look and see how big the world is.
Yes.
And one of my favorite exercises to do is given to me from a friend that was teaching at a retreat in Seattle, but it's called a sit spot. And so like you choose a spot, ideally in nature, because there's a lot to appreciate there. But you choose a spot and you sit there for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
You just don't do anything. You just sit there and notice. And like the birds start to fly right past your head because you're being so quiet. You notice like the ants, like you can really start to see things at a clearer level or hear things at a clearer level because you're just noticing.
I love this.
Yeah. And I think that it also goes... It's an easy way to just do meditation without like having a nap and all those things. Sure. But also it kind of goes back into what you were discussing with that paper of like the constantly just asking questions. So like when you're sitting in nature or your sit spot, you just keep asking questions like about everything that's around you, and sometimes those questions go deeper into the ant that's crawling in front of you, or sometimes they just divert and go to another question. But I think oftentimes we just go into like Google and try to find our answers, right? And then we're just giving the world all of our desires. We're like, oh, Apple, here's all my desires. Google, here's all my desires.
Yeah. Instead
of just like sitting with questions.
Like asking yourself too.
Yeah. So
because you're asking, what are you noticing, I guess.
Yeah.
When you're sitting, and then that comes from your self-inquiry rather than inquiring outside.
Yeah, like why am I choosing to notice this?
Yeah.
And this came up in Anna's, I'm doing Anna's like mentorship for her unstructured program. Anna was another individual that was on the podcast, but it came up with the idea of you can notice a body part or whatever, you can notice something, but not lead with it, right? So like the prompt was like, just notice your foot or notice your elbow, so some part of your body. But the idea that came through with the group knowledge was like noticing isn't always leading or acting through that body part. Sometimes it's just noticing.
Yeah.
Like back to your
do anything with it.
Yeah. Back to your feet on the ground. Like, how do they feel when you're just they're connected to the ground.
Yeah.
So, those are some cool things to be interested in.
That. I want to try the noticing meditation. I live right near a cemetery.
Nice.
So I go in there and just sit.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's a lot of little critters in there too.
Yeah.
And trees. I'm going to go back to
so much to notice. Really interesting. And it's called An Immense World. And it's just about how each animal or species has they have their own sensory inputs, and there's no hierarchy in the animal of sensory inputs. Like, we're not better because we can see better than a different animal, but this idea that everyone has their own superpowers, and it's just really cool to read the book and then also go out in nature and be like, oh, look at these dogs, they can sniff six times a second because they got 2 channels in their nose, one that goes directly back to their smell and one that goes in for breath. And it's you can just look at the world in such a more appreciative way, and you're and again back to the windows, everyone's got these different windows of sensory inputs and what's important to them and their life. So when you see people telling dogs get away from that smelly area or that disgusting.
Oh, no, they love
they love the smell.
That's the best part of their day.
Yeah. That's funny too.
Good gossips in that.
Yeah, exactly. It was hilarious too because the book also was like, what if humans actually started smelling each other when they hugged them? But that would just be like, you know. Okay, so we have been talking for a good amount of time. Oh wow. So time flies. So a couple final things, but where can listeners find you?
Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
I just have one.
Instagram. Yeah.
That's where I am.
You have a website too, right?
I have a website, StellaMyBella.com, super easy.
Mm-hmm.
And there are links to my newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
Because I want to write more about what we talk about.
Nice.
And keep nerding out about pole practice. So sign up for that if you would like to read some stuff.
Yeah.
Movement philosophies.
Also, those will also be in the info in the podcast. Great. So I'll include all that. Oh. Yes, and one final message that you would like to give the listeners
for the whole talk. Relearn how to play again.
That's cool.
Because we forgot.
Yeah. But it's in your body.
It's in there. You did it as a kid. No one taught you. It's in there.
Yeah.
As a kid, if you ever watch a kid play, you see that they go from one thing to another thing.
Yeah.
You know, we diagnosed it ADHD or whatever. Yes.
Yeah.
There's some issues there. People have traumas and developmental issues. I think a lot of that impulse and go, think of something, go, I think that's a big nuanced way of feeling yourself when you're playing, because you can sense what's exciting, what's boring, where do you want to go to, like indulging in that during play. It's really, really fun and engaging, and go outside more. Yeah. Play and go outside. I love it. Yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for talking today with us, and my pleasure. Hope to see you soon. Maybe we'll have you back on. Yeah, we'll talk about it for sure. All right. Thank you. Take care.